meeting of the
Sorry, Jeff,
Hopkins
you
Select
just
Board.
unmuted.
Okay.
Now you're good.
Oh, look who's walked in. He's here.
Perfect. He's more senior than me. He can open the meeting. I was just gonna start, Steve. You're on your own.
No, sorry.
Do you need a second? You don't have to jump right in if you need to, like.
Not too long. All right, it is 5:32. I'm going to call this meeting to order. And the first order of business is points of pride. Anybody have any points of pride they'd like to bring up?
Yes, I would
Yeah.
like to say thank you to all the town hall staff. They've definitely been pitching in a lot without having Neil here. So everybody's kind of just been really pulling it together.
Yeah.
In addition, like other employees too have also been helping.
Anybody else?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for just like plowing through this. My points of pride is a big thank you to the Legion, who I believe is the one who organized the Memorial Day parade the other day. It was just a really lovely parade followed by a really lovely ceremony and then a free and family-friendly event over at the Legion for folks to pop over. And it was really just, thank you to all of them for doing that. That was very nice. And then there's actually an event I'm going to plug for this upcoming Saturday at the Legion, which is a fundraiser for the food pantry. So if folks are around on Saturday, well, it hasn't happened yet. I'm just really excited to see folks putting forward that energy to help out the different departments in town.
And
very
what's the info for the food pantry event?
It is, I believe, from 5 to 7 at the Legion. It's donation based. And I will say it is the Lugnuts. So it is my father-in-law, who is the drummer who are playing. So maybe I'm a little bit biased here, but they rock pretty hard. And there might be a 5-year-old dancing. So if if that's your thing, come on by. But just the point of pride being that's just how much volunteer work that the Legion is doing right now and how much they're putting out there. It just means a lot.
Anybody else? Jeff?
Just to follow on those two things. First, all the food that was given away yesterday was donated by the Chapin family, hot dogs and sodas and chips and whatever else. So thanks to the Chapins. And then the event on Saturday,
Yeah.
I believe, is outdoors. So thanks to the fire chief for approving that request and the town and the New Hampshire State Liquor Commission.
Excellent. Anybody else?
I had a great time at the parade.
Okay, that's okay. Moving to our administrative portion of the agenda, approval of the consent agenda.
Move to adopt the consent agenda as provided.
Okay, can I get a second for that?
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. And approval of the public meeting minutes of May 12th, 2025, which should be in everyone's packet.
Move to approve the minutes.
Can I
As
get a
provided.
Second. Oh, Vicky, you got it. It's on you.
Vicky,
I get it.
all those in favor of approval of those minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So now we are on to our first public appointment of the evening, which is Paula. Paula, could you come on up here, please?
Sorry, we're late, Paula.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
So,
what's up?
typically I would work through this discussion with Neil first and have a plan of attack and everything, but because we're ticking away towards summer and that'll be here in no time, I just wanted to bring forth the information about how Kimball Pond staffing is shaping up for the summer so you're aware, because I think I know we're going to have to implement some changes based on the number of staff we have. So I just wanted to let you know, and then we can talk about any concerns you might have, or if you want me to shift gears or whatever. But so in the past, we have typically had 4 lifeguards on for a shift. The pond's open 7 days a week, from 10 to 6. And then we run swim lessons, which usually carry to 7 o'clock-ish as well. So throughout a day, typical day for lifeguards on, sometimes it's busy, sometimes it's not. But when it's busy, you know, you do need those 4 lifeguards. They rotate. And they do provide the ability for a lifeguard to take a break. So basically, it's like always 3 on managing the area. And how we've had the area set up in the past, we have the shallow end, and then there's a divider, and then there's a very, very large deep end, which goes out to a floating dock. So just to put that all in perspective for you. So this year, based on staffing, how it's coming up, we're a little short on staffing. So having some choices to make how best to manage this. I looked at, you know, do we want to have full staffing on for 5 days of the week? And then the other 2 would be swim at your own risk. So completely unmanned. And then I also looked at, well, how could it be set up if we reduce the number of staff to 3 and brought the size of the deep end in, so it's more manageable with just 2 lifeguards on with 1 rotating around. So those were really the 2 options that I've been considering based on the amount of staffing that we have. So the thought of going swim at your own risk, yeah, I've given this a lot of thought, and just how exactly it would look, or what could possibly come up in a day if it was unmanned. And I really did not like the idea of the gate being open, that facility being open, with no staff there. And so I thought, well, at the very least, I would go down and sit there all day long and just make sure. I know that's wrecking my whole summer plans there.
Sorry, I didn't mean to let my face be so loud. Please.
But that's okay.
Sorry.
But the thought of leaving that facility with no oversight for trash, potential vandalism, you know, non-residents using that space, not having enough space for our residents, that really made me feel uncomfortable. So I thought at the very least, if we were in that situation, I would need to bring in somebody to monitor it, whether it was myself or bringing in another staff member to
Can somebody, there's an echo. Go ahead.
Or bring in another staff to be there on site, just to sit there all day, not to be a lifeguard in any capacity, but just to make sure there
Yeah.
wasn't vandalism, trash.
Staff it.
Just somebody there, unlock the gate, sit there all day, and go home at the end of the day. So there was that one option I considered. The other option was, like I said, having 3 staff bringing it in. I talked to Primex about all of the options to get their opinion. Basically, how they approach this, and I'll read specifically just so you know. The claims consultant said, you know, it's important that the rec programs are covered, and we do have 2 programs there. The rec camp, they use it like 3 times a week during the week. And then we also have swim lessons, which I would run during the week. So it would be important for us to make sure that those are covered, which I would do. If we did go swim at your own risk, that it's important to have proper signage. So people know exactly, no lifeguards are on duty, you are swimming at your own risk. And then however we approach the management, just that it adequately meets safety standards. So for instance, like if I thought, you know, it was not adequate, if we were not operating safely with just one, for instance, that would not be a good choice to go for. And I do feel that way. And so that was not even an option to consider. The risk manager thought, my approach to shrinking the area, lots of signage indicating swim at your own risk if we do have to go that way is a good option. But ultimately it's up to the town to set the rules using best common sense and what is enforceable. So considering all that, I feel like we could go either of the two ways, but I'm leaning more towards shrinking the staffing, shrinking being open 7 days a week. I didn't say that right. Being open 7 days a week, shrinking the area, the swim area, having 3 lifeguards on in the event. There is 2 lifeguards on for, let's say, one of those lifeguards is sick that day and we only have 2. I mean, we're not going to have anybody to call in extra staff to bring in. So let's say there's just 2 there. We could make that work, but in order to give adequate breaks for the staff, which it is very taxing to sit in the hot sun to stare at the water, it is important to rotate them and give them breaks. We would at times probably have to close down like clear the whole pond and then create swim at your own risk for 15 minutes or something like that while they take breaks. If we were with 2 lifeguards, if we were 3, I think we could manage it pretty well with just reducing the deep end area. So I guess, so that's my recommendation with how I would like to approach it. If you have other thoughts on the swim at your own risk and want to go that route, that's fine. We can do that. But if we do happen to get 1 more lifeguard that can work full time, it could change this whole situation. I mean, one more body really does make a difference, and we could potentially open it back up the way it's been run in the past. But-
How many bodies are you at right now?
So I have 3 full-time, but one of those full-time will have a delayed start because of certificate issues. And then I have 3 part-time.
Okay.
And then you also figure in with that, you've got vacations in there so even though it's full-time, that person may be missing an entire week.
Yeah.
So, there's always that factor in there.
And so you said if you had 1 more full-time, that would make a huge difference. Does it make any sort of significant difference to have additional part-time, or do you really need another full-time to make a difference?
Well, like 2 part-times would be great too. So somewhere around there, and by full-time, I mean, there is flexibility and there's like 30 to 40 hours is what
Right.
So
Right.
if it, if I had a full-time, brought them in at 30 and a part-time brought them in at 25, that would be really nice. So,
I wanted to ask you, you talked about swim at your own risk,
Mhm.
but it sounded like the way you were picturing it, the gate would be open and people could still drive down and park. What about closing the gate and just having people park on the road and walk down?
well, so I thought about that and then I was concerned about all the people on Rollins Road who might be, that's going to have a lot of traffic parked down that street and how congested that might be. And then, of course, the highway department might not like that either. I don't know.
Yeah.
They're trying to do work or something down there.
I know I've driven by and seen people park there,
They
and I
do.
assume that people have walked down to the beach. Have we ever done swim at your own risk during the summer before that you can recall?
Not while I've been here.
Yeah.
So, and this is year 10.
So yeah, I was gonna ask a similar question. Have you ever had a situation where you, as you described, during a short staffed day when someone's on a break? And have we ever done that? Like 15 minutes swim at your own risk, that like
Yeah.
minor amount of it?
Yeah, so actually, it's funny you asked because a couple years ago, we were in that situation and one of the lifeguards texted me and I drove down there because I'm like, 2 is not okay. And they said, we've been on the stand for 2 hours without a break. I'm like, well, you need to manage this. And they weren't, the director wasn't there, so they didn't feel empowered to close things down. So
Yeah.
anyway, so that's what I did. I went down and helped them get a break, but on a busy day, it's 2 people is just, it's not safe for the lifeguards at that point, and it's not going to be safe for the swimmers either, because the lifeguards will be fatigued
Mhm.
from being up on the stand in the eye strain and the concentration. So they really do need that mental break.
Can you just talk a little bit more about why the recommendation was 3 staff for 7 days versus 5 days at full staff?
So repeat that one more.
You said your 2 sort of options were you could do 5 days a week.
Yeah.
But full staff.
Yeah.
Or you could do 7 days a week, but lower staff, three guards on.
So I couldn't know, so it'll,
Misunderstood what the other options.
oh,
were.
so yes, all right, no, so you're correct. So the question is, why did
Yeah.
you choose?
Yes.
which Way to go?
Yes.
Sorry, so,
I didn't ask you very well. Sorry.
no, that's, my brain probably is not connecting with your brain, so it's a me problem.
Yeah.
But, so I did not feel that it was good to leave the pond unattended for those 2 days, because those 2 days would have to be swim at your own risk.
And what 2 days were you thinking would be?
Saturday and Sunday,
Oh,
because
okay.
I need to cover the programs and the swim lessons during the week.
Got it. Okay.
So,
Okay.
um,
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that
I
would
didn't realize those would be the 2 days with no staffing.
sorry, you wouldn't know that unless you were in my head.
Right, our
No, I didn't
brains,
do
yeah.
that. We'll get there, we'll get there.
I have another question. If someone were to swim outside of the roped off swim area, do they get called back, or are they just kind of like told swim at your own risk?
They get called back in.
Okay.
Also, that'd be very bold because it's very gross outside of the roped-in area. Best of luck to them. I just want to say thank you for your very thorough exploration of this. I know you spend a lot more time than I do thinking about the staffing of the pond and the safety of the pond. And my opinion is to go with what you have come up with, to go with the staffing 7 days a week. You're mitigating as much risk. It sounds like we need to invest in some additional signage. As long as we have the money for that, then that feels reasonable. My only wondering is, let's say we get another staff member. How late in the season can we acquire another staff member and still change things? Or at what point are we just?
So that becomes tricky, because at some point, for instance, to this part-time that I'm assuming they are accepting the offer letter I've put in the mail to them
Okay.
last week.
Yeah.
So I can bring them on if easier and quicker if they already have a certification. If they have to go through the background check through the state, that can hold things up for a while. So there's some factors there. But all kinds of things happen with staffing throughout the summer that you wouldn't believe. I mean, somebody might break their arm, and somebody, and that's happened before. And, we might have a couple people that come back from last year and say, oh, I could pick up a weekend shift or whatever. So it's all very fluid. In this conversation we're having right now may shift into something completely different by the time we open in 2.5 weeks. So, but I just wanted to bring this forward, because if all things stay the way they are or reduce in what I'm thinking will happen, those are the 2 options I'm looking at, and I want to try and make it work with reduced staffing to 3, reduced swim area, but open 7 days a week. That I think would be ideal.
That's what you favor.
That's what I favor.
Anybody else have questions for Paula?
No, you did all the due diligence. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Do you need a motion from us? Didn't sound like anybody was objecting to that proposal. Would you feel better with that?
I feel like I'm okay
Okay.
with just you knowing the decision I'm making, because I think I work through these types of decisions,
Yeah.
and things end up being fluid and flexible throughout the year. It's just, I haven't been in this situation before where the staffing has been this short at the very end. And then, you know, I don't have a town administrator just to filter this through. Who would then just update you on, hey, we're having some shortages for a couple weeks or whatever, this is what we're doing. So I just wanted to be proactive with you, so you knew if people are saying, oh, you know, the swim area is not what it, well, this is what.
This is.
And this is,
yeah.
this is just how.
Just to put an asterisk on it, if 2 weeks from now, right, this is right where we are, or it's less, right?
Yeah.
I know that you have a presence on Facebook and
Mhm.
just communicate and tag the towns that we can repost and reshare.
Yeah, great. That's all. I can do that. I can do that. for
Tell
sure.
folks why it's happening.
All right. Will
Thanks,
do.
Paula.
Thank you so much.
All right.
You want to hop back on board? Yeah.
Sorry, I was late. I was dealing with work in Concord. Okay, so next we have Dan Blanchett, Briar Hill Road. Hi,
Howdy.
do you have good and easy news to share with us?
Well, it's more of, I need to know what your plan is. I put in to finish Briar Hill. I know money's tight and it got taken out, that's all fine, but I need a direction on where to go. Neil was unsure, and we have two large culverts / bridges coming up. So we're gonna need money for that. He thought maybe a bond for those, and Briar Hill would be included in that, but I need some direction. GMI is gonna be paving the top coat on Briar Hill hopefully tomorrow or Thursday. And if it's going to be over a year from now before we do anything with the rest of that road, I need to have them skim some over this older section, because it's getting very bad.
Yeah,
I don't really want to put it through another winter without doing something to it, but we can limp it through if we have to. And I'd rather not put something on it than next year we tear it all out.
Yeah.
So I just need a little bit of direction on what you
What's
guys
the
are
cost
thinking.
for the remainder, Dan?
Just for Weaver to come in, I believe it was, his high estimate was 700,000 to finish it.
And what about the two culverts?
That I can't even begin. I'm estimating minimum 600,000 piece.
Piece. So we need a $2 million bond, is what you're telling me.
That's on the low side, I think, too. It could be higher than that.
And,
I'm currently have the engineers are working on those two culverts.
that was gonna be my question, is when do we think we'll have a good number?
So East Pennacook should definitely get done sooner than later. That one jumped 2 spots, went on the red list. It went from was it 304 or 403? I can't remember which, but it jumped 2 spots in 1 year. So there is no more bridge aid. That's not an option. I talked with someone from the state, and they basically take all the bridges that are on red list and just kind of like hand pick it. So we could come into a situation like Stickney Hill where they shut the road down and now we're stuck. Stickney Hill actually worked out in our favor a lot because we already had that box already built, ready to go. And that was even though it was slow, it was a fast process. And I don't think we want to shut East Pennacook down.
You're right about that.
Broad Cove, you might get away with. East Pennacook, no.
I remember this conversation from a few months ago and I think some of us wanted to spend the money, but
Yep, and I fully understand. We have a lot of things coming up with the sewer, both
Yeah.
transfer station and the plant, and
yeah,
bridges and stuff. It's a lot, but I'm not mad, or I just need a direction. What are we
Yeah.
doing so I can handle this now? I can have GMI coming up and skim over those bad spots while they're here, or do we wait?
So that was gonna be my question. So if I mean, basically, unless we figure out a way to come up with 700 grand right now, we're not gonna be able to really redo Briar Hill until we vote next year, I assume, on a bond. And so wondering what the options are. So I know it is really bad, so you don't want to go through another winter with nothing. So with the skim option, is that something they could like weave into?
So I can,
Here?
they can do that now, just go over those really bad spots. Just to smooth them out, and that can come out of the current bond. There's enough in there to cover that.
And then would that would get us through the winter?
Yeah, that'll buy another year, maybe two.
Okay.
The catch basins and culverts, another story. We may have to do those sooner than later as well.
So when you say a year, so, I mean, we wouldn't be able to vote on any new bond or new money until March.
Correct.
And so if we got new money in March, would we be turning around and spending it immediately, or would be talking in 27?
I would prefer to spend it immediately. I'd like to get going on at least East Pennacook Bridge.
Okay,
And then if you had Briar Hill to finish that in there, get that done as well.
okay,
And then the following year, do Broad Cove.
okay,
So that would be 27, do Broad Cove.
okay.
Broad Cove's a culvert, you're not talking about paving Broad Cove.
No, just the culvert. Okay, yeah.
Just checking.
No, I just overlaid Broad Cove. That's good to go.
And just from a process standpoint, in the past, when we've seen something like this, have you broken it down into different bonds over time, or you try to stick it all together and just get it all done?
It was more of a lump sum.
Yeah.
We did all the culverts on Briar. It was a $2 million bond, and that went away. Then we had to get another one to finish them. Plus, there was Stickney popped up, and the one at the fairgrounds popped up. So it's we didn't use any bond to redo any roads except for Briar Hill. That was the only road we've done with any type of bond.
Thank you.
If we don't do the skim and save that money, that's gonna, we have a year, maybe one more winter, and that's it.
Yeah, I'd rather not push it. It's to that point where
Okay.
I don't want to push it. I mean, if you don't think we're gonna go for a bond next year because of everything else that's going on, I want to get a skim coat on it. And I'm guessing somewhere around 40 to 50,000 to put that skim on.
And I think that's what I was trying to get at. If we are gonna go for a bond next year, is the road okay that it can get through the winter with nothing done to it? And then obviously, assuming we get the
I'm
bond,
hoping.
okay.
I'm gonna say yes, but things could go bad in a hurry.
Okay.
It's that bad. It's falling apart.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds like we need to do the skim no matter what then.
It seems like that's our best path at this point, because
It-
we
it-
don't
it
know.
can
if we
be,
have a
right.
Bond.
Right,
But
I
if we
just-
At least do the skim, then we
Yeah,
did something. to-
it's up to you guys. I just letting you know what's going on.
I have a question.
Yep.
Not that this matters to Dan, but do we have anything else on the horizon in terms of major capital expenditures?
I don't recall what's on the capital improvements plan, so I don't know.
I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
don't
anything
know.
was bonded, to be bonded.
The pump station.
Yeah, the pump station.
That's a separate item that I don't know if we're gonna get there or not.
I don't know.
What's
That's a
your-
good Neil question. I just don't, I don't
Kind of a
know.
tax whip.
The pump station, I think it was 1.5 or something in there. And I think that might actually go down. We found some different systems. Dave's been looking very hard at this, and there's some systems that we can utilize the wet well that's there, just move the pumps upstairs, not redoing that whole thing.
Wow.
So we potentially could save a lot of money.
That would be amazing.
You guys rock.
We're
You're
trying.
like literally the best.
Dave he's gonna take all the credit. He's great. I'm not a big sewer guy. I really never had my fingers in sewer. I did water and transfer station, everything else, but not the sewer. I wanted nothing to do with
Please
it.
pass along to us what his favorite snacks and desserts are, so that we
Well,
can then
I
pass.
think
them.
just about anything he'll be happy.
I mean, my opinion is we spend the 40 to 50 right now because we don't know what's going to happen in the future, and have to close down the road this winter would be.
Generally, I would just do that, but I needed kind of like a direction. Where you guys going? What are you thinking?
No, I mean,
Because Neil did not know.
We've had many discussions about roads in my limited tenure on the board. And certainly these big issues need to be bonded. I mean, we can't pay them out of out of operating expenses. We can't add $1 million or more.
Right.
$2 million to 1 year's tax bill. It's just not practical for us. So I think, we're gonna end up putting forward some kind of bond. How much it will be, how much it will include, just what you talked about is 2 million plus, and there are certainly other needs in town. So I think we're gonna look at one probably for at least 2, if not 3, 4, or 5, so.
The good news is we're whittling down on these culverts / bridges.
Yep.
There's not too many left, so, this is what I was dealt with and we gotta work with it, so.
Yep.
Mhm. May I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Is there any, would the skimming the top do anything to harm or weaken the road, or is it just gonna strengthen?
It's just gonna help us to plow it, let traffic drive over it smoothly. I mean, these spots have load after load of coal patch in all the holes. And then it rains and the stuff pops out. It's not made to last,
Mhm.
so.
So skimming is more than just like that black goop that they fill in the cracks with.
Oh, yes, this is basically, they take a paver and put a thin layer on. We've done it ourselves in a lot of spots around town just to get us through. And it's worked good. Some people don't like it, but I gotta do something. And it's to that point that something needs to be done.
Right, and it would smooth the surface for the drivers and the
Yeah.
plow guys.
Yeah.
And how much money is left in the Briar Hill bond?
I just looked today, there was 600 and something thousand left. I wish you didn't ask me this question. And the top coat and the berms, I believe, was gonna be somewhere around 300 to 400,000. I can't quite remember
Got
off
it.
the top of my head.
So, and you said that this week something is starting.
Yeah, that's the top coat
Okay,
on the section that we already rebuilt,
right.
because that was just a base.
Is
and-
the top coat the last step? Mhm.
Yes. So they're putting the Cape Cod berms down the hills. Then they'll do the top coat, which locks the berms in, directs the water to the basins. And the top coat is it for hopefully for about 15 to 20 years.
So when we do the top coat of the berms and then spend the money to skim it, we might have like 150 or 100 left in that
Possibly
$2 million
somewhere around there.
bond.
Yeah.
Which is restricted to road work.
Which I have plenty more of. So, yeah, and I've got right now, my budget is stretched right to the max on the paving side. I'm doing a lot this year, a lot of chip sealing. So Neil said if I needed to, just take from the bond and pay for 1 or 2 of those roads out of the bond. So,
Well, then I feel almost extra in favor of doing the skimming just for those folks who live on that stretch of
Yeah.
Briar Hill that didn't get, even though we all, agreed to redo Briar Hill.
I hate doing it, putting those skims on, but sometimes it's the only thing we can do to get us through. I think it's a giant waste of money, but you gotta do. what
Because
you
it's
got-
like a Band-Aid?
Yeah,
Yeah, and we could have finished the road and then done the whole thing at the end, but we had other stuff happening, so we didn't.
there's a lot going on.
Yeah,
I agree to doing the skim. It sounds like
Okay.
we'd be taking a big risk to not do that.
thank you.
Good, no problem. Anything
We'll
else?
be talking to you soon about we're gonna have to talk about some potential bonds sooner than we think.
Yep.
It'll be fun.
I know once upon a time you had a road hit list, worst to best, I guess.
Yeah,
And I assume maybe you have one for culverts as well.
culverts are basically, I try to be proactive, but it's very hard because they're underground. And we have, there was 650 something culverts in town.
Wow.
So to keep track of that, the engineers that are doing the stuff for the sewer plant just put all those culverts into a GIS map.
Nice.
I don't know the extent of how much information they put in there, but
Yep.
it was helpful. We had a a high schooler went around on his bicycle and they gave him a vest and he GPS marked every culvert that he could find in town.
Nice.
This,
That's awesome.
I think there's still some, I
Project.
think there's still some missing, but I had this giant paper, clipboard full of papers of, I'm like, I can't do this. It would take me years to log that into a computer or a program.
Well, perhaps if you could update the road condition sort of summary,
You want a new one? When do you want to buy?
whenever you can get it. I mean, you know, I'm not trying to make it overly complicated, but if we're gonna start talking about road bond and we can add in 3 or 4 more roads within a reasonable amount of money, then we should consider that.
Okay. Well, the good thing is, I think the last list you saw, most of them are still on that list, so.
I'm sure.
That's the good
Hill. It's good for me.
Right.
Easy work. Let me show you the same list
Just gonna
again.
cross this one off and add a couple more.
So the prices are all the same too since the last time.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Dan.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dan. You said it.
Okay, we're a little early for our next public appointment, but I see our guest here. Do you mind going a little early, Ken?
No.
Do you have any budget fixes for us on the road? Okay, good.
As Stephen knows.
I didn't say anything because I wanted you to come in and be the hero. So,
Great.
yeah.
Yeah, don't get too excited. This is.
You don't have $600,000 right there?
No.
Hmm.
It's strange being on this side of the table, for sure. Just for the record, my name's Ken Traum. I live at 402 Maple Street, Kentucky. I'm here representing the Hopkinton Energy Committee and as the town's representative for the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire. Also with me tonight is Andrew Hatch, the engagement manager for CPCNH. So if you have any questions that I can't answer, he's here. The Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire has partnered with Encore Renewable Energy to build a 4.99 megawatt solar array off of Poverty Plains Road in Warner. CPCNH and Encore plan to structure the Poverty Plains Solar as a group net metering project, with Encore serving as the group host and CPCNH serving as the administrator. As the administrator, CPCNH is responsible for finding and managing subscribers, group members. They'll also process the payments or bill credits on behalf of the host and group members and meeting all reporting requirements. And as a subscriber, CPCNH is offering municipal accounts that subscribe to the solar bill credits at a 12.5% of Eversource's default service rate, which equates currently to 1.12 cents per kilowatt hours. By subscribing, I mean pledging to load for any municipal accounts that we have that use at least 6,500 kilowatt hours annually. The town would be able to continue to acquire its power from a third-party provider of its choice, from CPCNH or an Eversource default power. So it doesn't tie the town up at all. And there would be a 1-year notice to exit the program if we wanted to. The Energy Committee unanimously recommends taking advantage of this opportunity and does not see any downside. Based on our estimate of the annual eligible usage, and thank you, Kelly, and for that this would save the town approximately $2,000 annually. Like I said, not 600,000, but 2,000 is something. The array is currently planned to go online next summer. And I don't know, Stephen, were the draft letter of intent and the final agreement provided to the board?
I believe they were. I'm looking. Did you see those, Kelly?
Yes, they should be in.
They're in there.
there.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, okay. So,
Under 8.
Oh, yeah, there they are. Yep.
They're basically forms that have been drawn up by CPCNH and used by other towns. Certainly, I and the committee did not see any issues with those agreements. So on a very quick overview, I'm open to try to answer any questions people may have.
Thank you, Ken.
Very thorough.
When do we have to definitively answer this?
The sooner the better, so that we can subscribe, because I believe there are other larger towns or cities that are willing to take the whole load. But as a neighboring town, they want a CPCNH would like to give us a right of first refusal.
Huh.
Andrew, is there?
There is a deadline by the 1st of July, really. It's a little soft-ish, but not, we would really like to get everything tied up. Encore Renewables, if I may, is a developer, the project, which is easily visible from 89 between exits 7 and 8, you'll see is a cleared site. It literally is shovel ready. There are no contingencies. They're not risking any unexpected cost hikes due to the T word. But because everything has been pre-purchased, they will immediately, once this purchase agreement is executed, start getting steel in the ground with the intention of being up and running summer of 26. So we are putting July 1st.
Just to flag for the board, the LOI says very explicitly that it's non-binding and doesn't constitute a contractual obligation. It's just signaling our intent to participate.
Mhm.
Ken has been very helpful working with our projects and programs director Mark Bollinger to identify the accounts within the town that would be eligible. And as Ken said, it basically represents just over 200,000 kilowatt hours, netting out your 2 net metering projects that we didn't have data on, and I believe only came live 6 months or something ago. Is that right?
Yeah.
So we've made the assumption that the amount of generation there would cover the anticipated loads for your sewer accounts. So that doesn't include those sewer accounts. If something different than those calculations were to come to the fore, then they could be included. So right now, it's just 6 accounts that total the 200,000 kilowatt hours. That minimum that Ken mentioned, so more than 6,000 kilowatt hours a month. So there's probably about a dozen accounts that are fairly small that really wouldn't log from it. It's just an administrative challenge because we have to register each account individually with the Department of Energy, and they only allow us 2 decimal points of branding in the contribution of any account to the overall account, which is 8.8 million kilowatt hours. So that's where the math comes from. I thought when we started this that the whole thing would be sort of aggregated under a master accounts officer, but that isn't actually how it's going to be adjusted one-on-one. So the accounts will actually be reimbursed individually with the credit.
Sorry to interrupt you. I'm realizing no one can hear you probably online because the mic. So you want to pull the chair to, thank you.
Would you like me to do that again?
You can summarize or say that again, that would be great. I could use another round on that with the math.
So
Thank you.
I'll probably just sort of start again, and if I forget something I've already said, please remind me. What I was trying to explain is that Encore Renewables, the developer, has been working with us very actively. Ken has been very helpful in bringing to us the large version of all the municipal accounts. As he said earlier, this is because of the size of the array and the New Hampshire law, only available for the municipal accounts of the town of Hopkinton. And when we've done some analysis and taken out the Civil War Park as an example, which is an account, and all of the small ones that are less than 6,500 kilowatt hours a month, and remove the sewer pump station and the sewer plant, which are both tied to a solar array, we come up with 6 accounts: the senior center, the library, the transfer station, community well, highway garage, and the streetlights. And when you add those up, the historic trailing 1 year average consumption is just over 200,000 kilowatt hours a month. As Ken said, this contract is evergreen in so much as if you stay in it, you will continue to benefit from these reimbursements. Each of these individual accounts will receive a bill credit. So nothing really changes for the town, except there'll be another line item on your Eversource bill saying credit for group net metering. And consequently, we can only give you these sort of rough numbers because each 6 months, Eversource's account rate changes. It has no bearing on what you actually do in terms of procurement in the town of Hopkinton for your electricity. So if you are with a third-party supplier, choose to go that way, come on with the coalition, or stay with Eversource default, nothing changes. But the multiplier, the calculation, is based upon Eversource's published default rate, which is currently 8.929 cents. So the mathematicians amongst you will realize that 12.5% of that is just over, it's 1.12 cents a kilowatt hour right now. If that goes up in August when the new rates change, that would change again. But obviously, as I've said, this will only become active when the array interconnects with the grid, which will be on schedule for summer of 26.
Thank you.
Just to make sure I completely understand, the whole idea here is we say yes to this, some stuff happens on our bill, we save a little bit of money.
We
Cool.
could have saved some time and just said that, yes.
I don't see a downside. Unless I'm missing something.
No, yeah. No, I'm in
always
favor
wary
as
of
well.
there's no
Yeah.
doubts. But right now you just need the letter of intent by July 1st, right? Or do you need that
Actually,
agreement?
by July 1st, we would require an executed contract. The contract is the same for all participants. So, you know, it isn't something you can redline, but you're more than welcome to run it past legal if you so wish. I can, and actually, Ken, you don't know this, but I just heard today that all of the execution of the contracts on the coalition side of the fence have taken place. There is a final underwriting, the wrong word, but the sign off from Encore. But given that they are the authors, we don't anticipate any last minute wrinkle in that regard.
And Ken, from the Energy Committee's perspective, there isn't any way where we actually end up paying $1 bazillion more on anything and nothing, we don't lose power and nothing goes wrong. And this is just cool.
Correct. We don't see any downside whatsoever to this particular agreement.
Awesome. I will say, I truly only understood about a quarter of what you said, but I do understand the part.
That's his
where it
accent.
doesn't- No, his accent's great. But the part where it doesn't cost us anything and it saves us money and it all just happens, seems to work for me.
This is the elegance of the group net metering law that is in effect in New Hampshire, and particularly where municipalities can participate in these larger developments. It's a very compelling opportunity.
Sabrina is.
So does anybody see a reason we shouldn't sign a letter of intent?
Right, no,
Nope.
no, I'm just looking at the contract. I think, yes, we can do that. letter of intent. Perhaps we could more carefully read the contract before we commit to that.
I move that we approve the letter of intent and authorize Kelly to sign it on our behalf. Is that okay with you, Kelly?
Sure.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? No.
So I guess if you have any issues with the contract itself, please let us know. Otherwise, we'll just assume it's okay.
Yeah, and we'll, yeah, so we meet again on June 9th, I think. Is that right? No, yeah, Monday, June 9th.
Yep.
So we could, yeah, if we have any, once we've had a chance to look at it, we can maybe call you back in or just decide to move forward with the contract at that meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like coming to Monday nights for 12 years. I don't like it anymore.
Oh,
I did have one other request from the committee. The town's representation on community power. It had been Mark Zankel was the representative. I was the alternate. Neil was the administrative contact. So Mark has resigned effective town meeting. So at this point, I'm the only person. What the committee is recommended to the select board is that I be the prime representative, Stephen be the alternate, and Karen be the administrative contact.
Karen, the new town administrator.
Yeah.
Yes, I was blanking on her last name.
Interestingly enough, as you know, Karen's from Bradford, so she's been through the process of community power and is familiar with operating in that role for the town of Bradford. I believe she doesn't take her position till like the 23rd of June or something. Yeah, yeah. There is nothing procedural that is really at risk in the month of June, but soon after she arrives, we will be setting new rates, and so there will be communications, but we typically inform member rep, alternate, and the principal in the town. So there are 3 points of contact that will be notified.
So Sabrina, you said that 2 weeks from now, we'll have had time to review the formal contract.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And yeah, I think if none of us have issues, who can sign this?
Do you need a motion for the representatives to community power and alternate?
I would think so.
Okay, I would make a motion that Ken serve as the representative, I as the alternate, and Karen, once she begins, as the administrative point of contact.
And just because I don't know the answer, can you nominate yourself? Or do I need to make that motion?
Would you like to make that?
I'm just asking out of ignorance, so. I move that we make Ken the primary contact, that Stephen be the alternate, and that Karen, when she is on board, become the administrative contact.
Seconded.
Thank you.
Hi. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Okay.
Always happy when Stephen takes on another role. So I don't have to.
Okay, so we'll let you know if we have any issues with the contract, but otherwise, I think, I guess it says insert member name. So I know, but who would sign on behalf? Kelly, me?
Probably take a motion to figure that out at the next meeting.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
Yeah, so can we put this on for the next meeting as well? Yeah.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's keep looking for some more dollars.
Yeah.
598 to go, right?
It's the way.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Andrew.
Okay, we can move on to old business. First up is the Elmbrook Park letter review. I just had Kelly add this because I couldn't recall if this is the letter that Ian
Correct.
Hart asked us to send in to our federal delegation. And I thought it looked great, but then we were already so close to this meeting, I figured I would just have us make sure that no one has any issues with it.
So at the last meeting, I suggested that we carbon copy the Army Corps of Engineers. And that's not on here. So I did find their New England district office address, which is in Concord, Mass. So I thought it would be appropriate, considering we're basically speaking on their behalf, to let them know that we're sending this letter.
Oh, that sounds good.
So if it's okay with you guys, I'll just give that to Kelly and then.
Yep.
Are you the one who like made this draft?
No, but I do have the draft and.
You haven't edited a version of it?
Yep.
Okay,
To
is
print on
that
letter.
okay with you guys?
It's fine by me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
give me that. And then I'll sign the final copy. Yeah, okay, once we add that.
Do we want to send it to headquarters as well, for the Corps of Engineers?
Sure. And you mean like they're,
I don't think it can hurt anything.
Okay.
Lieutenant General William H. Graham Jr.
You have an address?
I'll get it to
Okay.
Kelly.
All right. Okay. Are we able to see if we have people online? I don't want to mess anything up for you.
No.
Oh, wait, attendees. All right. Okay, so next up is the Housing Committee, discussion of the charge. Okay.
Hey. So I brought this up to the select board. I had two parts I wanted to do. Part one was revisit the charge. We had a question come up in committee about affordability and whether or not affordability and the focus and the recommendations from the consultancy on affordability and zoning laws that focus on creating affordability was part of the charge. And because I was not there for the founding of the housing committee, because I was not part of it previously, part of this is me saying like, hey guys, when the charge was written, what was the intention? And if the consultancy is coming up with a mixture of recommendations that are part, hey, let's fix this, it doesn't line up with the law, and part, these zoning changes would encourage higher density housing, which they believe would lead to affordability. Does that fit within the charge? So that was one part. Part two was we did have a community member inquire as to the makeup of the committee. And the makeup of the committee is clearly outlined on the website. And so I was seeking to understand the intention behind the makeup of the committee so that we could better answer community member questions. So again, this is like me just doing research to ask, how did we get to where we are so that we can honor the intention of what the committee was for and why it was designed the way it was designed.
Okay.
And for anyone following along at home, all the information I'm referring to is on the website. It's one of the only committees that has all their stuff on the website. It's really cool. So the charge and all that is on there. But one thing I did find striking is that the word affordability doesn't actually appear anywhere in the charge. And if I was to follow my train of thought here, my thinking is, well, it is what the consultants are coming up with. And so do we roll with it because that's it? Or are we doing something that needs to be adjusted?
I mean, I think it is not explicitly stated, but looking at the mission where it mentions a balanced community, and then one of the duties does mention the cost of housing, I would say that it is within the charge of the committee to consider affordability.
just to piggyback on that, again, I wasn't on the board at the time, but inferring based on this website and what is listed as what we expected from the committee, I think having a human services committee member on the housing committee it infers that we were worrying about the poor people and whether or not they could afford to live here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I went back through, Kelly and Kara helped pull old minutes, which was very helpful. And I went back through my notes too. And my memory is that affordability was in the mix. And the idea behind this was that this consultant would do the two things you said, like fix things that are sort of messed up in our zoning. And if they had recommendations around more efficient, denser, more affordable housing, that they could make those. It doesn't mean we have to take them, but that is part of what was sort of envisioned. That's my memory from my notes and from the minutes. And then in terms of the makeup of the committee, yeah, there was definitely intention behind having like a diverse group represented, including people who have experience in the world of housing.
Yeah.
That's
And I do want to tackle those two conversations just separately because they're not interrelated.
okay.
They're coming from two different areas. So it is helpful to know that the idea of a focus on affordability is not contrary to the charge. And for the record and the recording, and anyone else who watches this later on in the week, from a process standpoint, the consultants who are working with the board are putting forward the recommendations, which will then go to the planning and zoning board. It will have public hearings. They'll decide whether or not anything even is moving forward to a ballot vote, and then everything would go in front of the town. So when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about like the thing that is 12 steps removed from actually being a law. And I just want to point out that what they are coming up with really is two types of things. And one is, here's where you don't align with the RSAs or it doesn't make sense. And here are changes you could make to create higher density housing, more or less across all of them. But what higher density looks like and means is different in each zone because it's playing off of its current density. It's not trying to like level it. It's just trying to up it in each area. And this is my rough take. So if I'm misquoting, please forgive me.
So I think part of the difficulty is that the consultant was hired based on an RFP to do certain tasks, and they don't necessarily align perfectly with the charge or the mission. And so I think the RFP has more of a focus on affordability than the charge. I think the consultant's charge is more focused on affordability than the committee's charge was. The committee has evolved since this started. There is a focus on affordability, and how you get there is a different story. You know, I mean, I'm familiar with the consultants. I've worked with them in the past. I understand what they're doing. But I'm not blaming them for anything. I'm not blaming the committee for anything. It's just that the RFP that was put out, which the consultants responded to, is a little different than what the charge was here.
Can I ask who wrote the RFP?
You can ask, but I don't have an answer. I have no idea. I think it might have been Neil or Neil and Karen, but I'm not certain of that.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Catherine, do you know who wrote the RFP?
I'm not certain. I think either Neil or Beverly.
Oh, Beverly, right? No,
That's really
Beverly
helpful.
wasn't here then. When she was here.
Second one, not for the first needs assessment, but for the current consultant.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so what do you need from us, I guess? More discussion or more clarity, or what would be helpful? I know there are people, I think, who would like to weigh in, so I'll move up.
Yeah, I mean, I love having I need XYZ, but more this is like, I'm on a committee that's moving full steam ahead. I'm trying to make sure as a select board representation that the committee is honoring what the intention was. And so I don't really have a strong opinion either way, in so much as this is me gathering information to make sure that I'm representing us on the committee. Then I'm like, okay, yes, this does align with the intention. And a next step for me is to see if I can get my hands on that RFP, because it would just be helpful to understand what they were asked to do. for my own personal knowledge.
Can I just
Yeah.
go back to the makeup of the committee?
Oh, I would like to go back to that. I just want to finish this.
Yeah,
but I-
I want to make sure that
Yeah.
you were okay on the charge.
Yeah, so for the charge, what I'm hearing from you all is the focus on affordability did really come out in the RFP, but that it is not contrary to the charge laid out here.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like whatever bubbles up is what bubbles up.
It's not contrary,
Okay.
but the committee has certainly moved more aggressively towards affordability than, as I recall, what was originally envisioned.
Was there more when you talk about like, are there other key words you would say that are not affordability when you think about the committee first being envisioned?
It's, you know, it's complex because whatever happens has to go through town meeting. That
Yeah.
complicates everything. So no matter how good the ideas are. And so production of housing of all kinds is very limited here. I mean, you know, we had a bit of a boom during COVID, but I think Karen just issued the first building permit for a new unit this year. It's May. And so, you know, part of that is price, part of it's complexity of zoning here, part of it's some of the boards and committees. There's a million reasons why things don't happen.
Mhm.
All that said, we're just not producing much in the way of housing. We're not producing anything else either, don't get me wrong. You know, the animal hospital, I think, was the last non-residential building that was built. We just don't build much here.
I mean, it does look like that's part of the charge. I mean, it does talk about recommended long-term strategies regarding housing. And so maybe that's some input to bring back to the committee, is not to forget that that's part of what we hope that they're doing.
That's really, really helpful because I think one of the things that was coming out is they were also talking about the idea of sprawl versus fill-in.
Mhm.
And that many of the zoning recommendations they are putting forward for everyone to consider focuses on fill-in as a more sustainable and affordable version of getting more building versus sprawl, which would strain our infrastructure. We'd have to have more roads, blah, blah, blah. I'm just repeating. I can see from Jeff's face
and-
that I need to learn some more things.
Well, you know, infill is great.
Yeah.
If you have water and sewer.
Mm-hmm.
We have, somebody, I don't know, the last meeting, or maybe it was the planning board meeting, said the water system can only take 8 or 10 more users.
Yeah.
before we're at capacity. That's pretty scary. And, you know, there's plenty of capacity in the sewer system, but it's outdated and EPA doesn't like it, or DES doesn't like it.
Both, probably.
If we have to replace that, that's like a 30, 40, $50 million project
Oh, yeah.
for 200 users. And, you know, it would be hard. The town's not gonna be able to afford that unless we get a congressional add-on, which, you know, those are pretty much dead at this point, at least for the next 3 years. That would cripple us. I mean, we'd either have to take that system offline and make all those people go on some kind of a septic system, or we'd have to do some kind of a temporary solution where we collect it and we truck it out. And the cost for that would be outrageous. What did what's his name, Dave, say, 50,000 gallons a day?
Mm-hmm.
Try trucking that out.
I believe that there's a bill on AOT's desk opening up more accessory dwelling units by right.
Right.
Which obviously hasn't been signed yet, but yeah, and that would be more of the infill rather than, probably both, maybe, I don't know, but I mean.
Yeah, I mean, you can put ADU anywhere, of course, but, and they're not even requiring you to get the system, the septic system sized right to do it.
And I was gonna say, I do understand that a lot of the recommendations may be moot, depending on what happens at the state level, but
Well, but I mean, it's moot if we get past 10 units in
Yeah.
Kentucky Village. We don't have the ability to supply them.
yeah,
And, you know, that's gonna be a tremendous fight for that 11th person. That person who wants to build that 11th unit, we don't have water to give you, drill a well.
mhm.
And,
I mean, that's what the precinct has to do, is to say, no, we can't support you. That would be a problem if we had a non-residential user that wanted to come to the village and we had to say no.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just an external issue that I think the consultants need to consider in their recommendations. They may not be aware of it.
Well, the good news is there is a joint planning board housing committee meeting coming up.
Yep.
And I'm sure that this will bubble up as part of that. This is all really, really helpful. The context is super helpful for how I show up and how I listen, what I look for. So I'm good on the charge now.
Good.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
And to switch to the makeup of the committee and the intention behind that. Fill me in. Why did we choose to have such housing specific or housing industry specific people on the housing committee? And I know it sounds funny to say, but why was that?
My memory is that it was quite intentional, because we wanted some people that had expertise in this field to provide sort of a base level of understanding for the committee. And I recall when we put this together, there was some concern about, those sorts of individuals having a conflict, maybe too strong of a word, maybe a certain bias or sort of understanding and tilt towards more housing because it would arguably benefit their own business. And my memory is that we weren't persuaded by that to change the membership, because all this housing committee does is make recommendations. And so they're not going to be voting, just for an example, they're not going to be voting on anything that's going to go into effect to open up housing for the town. It would have to, as you said, go through 10 or 11 other steps before anything the housing committee is doing actually becomes, the law of Hopkinton to develop. And so we felt like because of that sort of attenuation, that the makeup was appropriate.
Yeah, and I think what's listed here is my memory of our discussion too. Mix of citizens with the following perspectives to the extent possible: local realtors / developers / real estate, financial professionals, local business leaders, open space / natural resource / blah, blah, blah. The list goes on. So clearly it's on the website. So
Oh,
I
yeah,
think that
yeah.
reflects like what our thinking was, that we were trying to get a mix. And we certainly didn't see people who had their professional background in real estate or development as not being like allowed to be part of the group.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's what's
Some vigorous discussion on a few of the people who were decided to be
Yes.
included.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, ultimately, I think it's a well-formed committee. There are differing opinions. It has moved much more toward affordability, I think, than it was originally thought. But then again, the state, announced this housing crisis, published this report that says we're all doomed. We need 60 or 80,000 new units in the next 5 years, and everybody's got to do the part. And I've worked in Massachusetts for years on housing issues, and I know we are at risk for becoming another Massachusetts. That, Massachusetts has a program where if a town doesn't have sufficient affordable housing, sufficient being 10%, that a developer can essentially ignore every single ordinance in town if they're going to build affordable housing.
Which for the record is not the case currently in New Hampshire.
No.
No,
Okay,
but
cool.
the direction, there's a lot of bills related to housing, and a lot of them take away municipal control.
And
I'm
I
not
will-
saying
yeah,
it's good or
the-
bad, I'm just saying that's a fact that they're out there.
Yeah, no, it's a tremendous risk to our town. This is a highly regarded community, highly regarded school system. We have large tracts of land, and there's 100-acre parcels in a half a dozen locations.
Yeah.
And if that program that Massachusetts has was available here, there'd be developers coming in saying, I want to build 400 units.
Do we know?
Thank you for that context, because one thing, and sorry to cut you off for 1 second, one thing that does keep coming up is some confusion because the state does have a formula that is done by county that talks about workforce housing or fair share housing. And it's more or less right now, it is just a like heads up thing. It's not a enforceable thing. And what you're saying is Massachusetts had something similar and they made it an enforceable thing. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the context.
I
It-
felt
true,
I remember
no,
filling out a survey when this housing committee was being formed about what we would like to see come of it or who we think should be on it. So I assume that that survey also informed the final decision of the makeup of the committee. I remember filling out that survey and saying someone who rents should be on the committee. That didn't happen, but
Okay, I want to say thank you all. I know that this was a very like loosey-goosey conversation, but context building is super helpful to represent us on the committee, and I feel much clearer now. So it's not just like Alyssa's opinion on the housing committee. It's like, what are we?
And honestly, some of this might not matter at all after this legislative session.
Why are you harshing my vibe so?
It's just, it is, take a look at the NHMA's list. of bills.
I am. I get the emails and I cry and I move on with my day.
question. There's two phases so far, right? The first one, correct me if I'm wrong, was a needs assessment. Is that correct? Done by a certain consultant, and then whatever the second phase is that has to do with like recommendations this is phase two. Is that
Yeah,
right?
that is accurate to the best of my knowledge. Yes.
So are the current consultants working with the document that was created by by phase one?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. They are
So-
building off the data from phase one. Different consultant group working off the same database plus some additional work they did to put forward recommendations that will then be passed on to the planning and zoning board for further discussion. And the chair has taken the stance that the housing committee's role is to facilitate, not to edit or adjust the recommendations, but rather to pass them on more or less as is. Though I do understand that we're going to be asserting what we think that should be prioritized, but not like edit or change or yada yada.
And so some of the recommendations from the first consultant were on the ballot last March. and
Got it.
Many of them passed.
Yes.
Ooh, asterisk, that was not the same one who worked with the housing committee. So the zoning board did a different consultancy,
Oh.
which,
You're correct.
okay, which then changed the trajectory of some of the stuff on the housing committee and blah, 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 blah.
Understood.
Yeah,
So-
that's like, ooh, that comes up a
I
lot.
knew that.
So the RFP that you were talking about is for the second consultants. So
Yeah.
again, Neil's not here to answer this question, but is there a chance that the language in the RFP was sort of lifted from the needs assessment? You know what I mean? That like,
Maybe,
I know what you mean, but I don't know the answer.
okay,
You gotta look into that one.
That's, yeah, if I
RFP
can,
mystery.
if I can read the RFP and then look back at the needs assessment, then it would just solve that directional. But again, all I was looking for is, I don't have the power to change individual, like things on the committee, but more
Right.
when I'm asked what is the opinion of the select board, I wanted to actually speak on behalf of what the intention was and not just what I made up in my head.
Will you maybe ask Beverly if she was part of that? Cause that might be a
Yep.
quick way to, okay, thank
yeah,
you.
and I can see if I can find any other information on it too.
Thank you. So we're not voting or making any decisions right now, but I know a couple people reached out about weighing in. So if anyone would like to comment or question, feel free.
Bill Palazzolo, 1555 Hopkinton Road. It was just a point of clarification on like what you were talking about in the beginning, the mission. And like Steven said, one of the duties is to analyze the availability and cost of housing. So are you changing that or requesting to change that to not just analyze, but you take a position on it and advocate for more? Because that's kind of like what I heard. So is that like you're looking for more like not just analyze, but to
Thank you for clarifying. No, so it is, so Oh goodness, where is it?
It won't change, like the committee wouldn't be taking a position, it would be
Yeah.
relaying, right?
Yes.
The charge, but were you looking for more of a charge of like taking, or I guess maybe taking positions, not the right word, but more aggressively exploring affordability?
No, again, thank you. My goal personally is not to change anything, but to seek to understand. And because so much of the recommendations from the consultants coming through were focused on affordability, I just wanted to make sure that from the select board standpoint, we were on the right path. And so when I look under number 7, to develop recommended long-term strategies regarding housing policy, and land use regulations, that's essentially what the consultants are doing, right? And that they will then pass along. And so I don't want to change anything. I don't necessarily think that we, as a housing committee, get to take our personal opinions and impart them onto the recommendations, right? Because the recommendations are coming from community surveys and feedback and events and data. And so that should just get passed along for the town to talk about. But no, I don't think we should change anything.
I mean, I assume you guys create, dissolve, and change committees. That's your purview. But I would assume maybe changing it, you'd get public input as you represent the town before it gets changed. But maybe you don't have to do that. I've only been really paying attention for 5 years. I've just never seen it change before. So I'm assuming it is in your purview, but I didn't know if you took input before changing a committee.
I think if we were going to consider a change, I think we probably would seek input. I mean, I read the mission, just to get to your question. I'm not on the housing committee, so I don't know how much this has been sort of discussed, but I do read this mission as including them taking a position, because it says the mission of the committee is to identify, analyze, and develop recommendations. And so I think if you're going to be making a recommendation, you kind of need to have a position so that you can recommend.
Oh, yeah, analyze and then develop. I thought Alyssa was saying, and I could be wrong, like you said, I probably I'm listening. I thought I thought she wanted of the position of advocating for, because that's what they're getting from the consultants, advocating, making that at the forefront instead of a piece of the duty that they look at.
No, thank you for clarifying. I don't mean to change anything. I was just making sure that that fell within the purview based off of their intention. So since that is what is bubbling up from the consultancy, I just wanted to make sure, like, hey, are we in line with like the original intention? Because in my own, you just never know what's going to come up, right?
Yeah.
And so I do appreciate that the mission was broad enough to kind of accept whatever came out of the consultancy. And I wanted to double check that since that is what's coming out, that we are still meeting the mission.
Thanks.
Thank you for asking.
Anyone online? Feel free to raise your hand. All right, anyone else is here?
Evening, everybody. Lauren Clement. I was just gonna, I pulled up on the town website, the Housing Opportunity Grant Project, and it has a pretty good explanation of what you guys are just talking about. And it seems like there's a phase 1 and a phase 2 built off of phase 1. And so I would think that that was structured at the beginning when you put out the RFP. But it also talks about a ongoing survey that's open right now, and maybe the public would like to participate in that. So that's all I just wanted to add.
Thanks.
And thank you for that reminder. I need to post it to all the Facebook groups. It's been a week, but thank you. I'll put it back on my to-do list.
There's a lot of
I know, right? I'm trying to stay on top of it, but there's paint in my hair right now. That's where things are at.
Just figured being on the board, you'd get gray already.
No, that's my son. That's not the board.
Anyone online? Anyone else here?
Post survey.
Okay, well, it's a good discussion.
Thank
And
you.
again, we're not making any changes or decisions right now, but thank you for being diligent about this. Okay, so next up we have transfer station fencing. You had flagged this as a thing. Why is a thing we needed to like close the loop on? And I don't know if this is like a a question for us to inquire with Jolene, or what was the status? I thought that they had fencing, they were at the trans.
Yeah,
Just
just,
of the wrong fencing.
no, well, she ordered the right fencing, but then Dan wanted to go with a different
That's right.
fencing, and so she was gonna figure out whether or not she could return the fencing. We got this during our walkthrough and we were hanging out with Jolene, and she was telling us the story. And the only reason, not the only reason, it's important, but one of the reasons at the forefront is we have had community members following up with us through the website, reminding us to like stay on top of it, because once that fencing goes up, the theory is it'll help reduce the trash going into the woods. And so we just don't want to like let it slip. We want to make sure that Jolene got the answer she needed to get the right fencing, and she has the support she needs and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if it's literally just the next time I'm in the office being like, hey dude, how's the fencing going? Or if we send an official communication, but just to make sure that she has what she needs.
I think that she does. I think she has the fencing. I think the rainy month that we've been in has kind of put things back a little bit. So I think that that should be going up soon.
Oh,
Okay.
great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, it's just because we had community outreach and
Yeah.
they were inquiring, and so I keep folks in the loop.
Good, I love it. Okay, we can move on to new business. We have the year-to-date expenditures. I don't know. I guess we have those, right?
Thank you, Kelly. I know at the last meeting you were like, guys, come on. So like, thank you.
Billy's doing like
So,
multiple
bazillion
jobs right now.
things.
Figure I'd get these out this time, and I'm hoping to have some revenues next time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did anything jump out at you, Kelly, and looking at this?
Let's go through. I mean, just overall, it does seem like we are pretty well on track, but I have noticed that some of our lines have been spent earlier than we were anticipating. So we're just gonna kind of keep a close eye on those as the year goes. I know our computer line was the big one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we're trying to offset that a little bit by trying to minimize what we need Computech to do, so see how that ends at the end of the year.
I was wondering about under financial administration for the computer services, it looks like we've spent all but $1 of the budget for the year. Is that like because
So it was
QuickBooks
a
rolled over?
rounded,
You know what I mean? Is it the subscription for the financial
Yeah.
software?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so the estimate was just rounded.
Right.
so it
But
ended-
like that's a one-time per year expense. So it'll just even out as we get closer to the end of the fiscal
Yeah,
year.
so there won't be anything else in that line for the rest of the year.
Right.
That was the one and only.
We don't have any more elections this year, right? We're done.
Well, I was gonna ask, is that, let's see, the expenses. Is that part of, aren't we getting a new machine or something? So it's election expenses.
So I have to double check that one, but I think that there was something. I don't know if I'm speaking, but I thought there was something that we ended up having to do that we were not anticipating.
Oh,
But there might be some reimbursement that we're expecting.
okay.
We
in
follow
that
up on
too.
that
I
for
will.
us.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. So yeah, I mean, obviously we all can see the computer service, the computer replacements line is sort of almost double, what we thought we were gonna spend, but that it was a bit of a kick off the cliff. They have to adapt.
Yeah.
So based on how much we had to do at the beginning of the year, do you think that like the project is done, or do you think we're gonna be replacing more?
No, I don't think we'll be replacing more.
Okay.
That should just be
Barring
it for that as
IT
long as,
emergency.
yeah. And there's a lot of computers that we had to replace we weren't expecting. So some of those older ones that we would be maybe worried about going like throughout the year, and those have all been replaced. So I think that should be good.
Right. And that's because Microsoft stopped supporting Windows 10. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we had to upgrade the computers to do Windows 11. Yeah. Not all the computers, just the older ones. Which is unfortunate now. They'll be on the same replacement schedule.
Right. Yeah, I remember, I can't remember if it was the fire station, the police station, but something about the radios being a similar situation where they're all the same age.
Yeah.
Because of 9/11 or something like that. So yeah, some of these numbers that just round out perfectly to exactly 100% have been expended for the year. That's just because we anticipated it. Like,
Some of them like
mutually
insurance.
dispatch.
Yeah, so it's a yearly fee that we pay. We pay it all at once and then we don't pay it again.
Got it.
So some of those fall at different times in the year. Is that, I just lost it. And you might not know this off the top of your head. This is probably a Neil question. The Comstar contract we have for ambulance, we pay them 24 grand a year.
We pay them based off of the revenue. It's not like a set amount.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, they do the billing and collections, right?
Yeah, they do a
Yeah.
percent of the collections.
Okay. There are changes coming to ambulance, just FYI. Well, most likely coming. That could impact our town, so.
Are we going to like these changes?
Well, TBD. It depends on who you ask, honestly.
Okay.
It might help us. I mean, I don't think, some towns are in network with large commercial insurance companies. I don't think this town is. So that means Comstar, has to chase down presumably people who have commercial insurance. And then anyway, it's a whole thing, but there is a bill currently in the legislature that is most likely going to pass that I think for a short term might simplify things for towns like ours that's not in network with commercial insurance. So
Will it hurt the average person though?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Hopefully
cool.
not.
That's great.
Yeah. But yeah, it might shift things with Comstar. Just throwing that out there. It might not. The bill's not fully done yet, but I happened to be in a committee today that was discussing it. So just putting that on people's radar.
Thank you, Callie.
Yeah.
This is really helpful.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So we have our next
Back.
budget committee meeting before Karen starts.
Yep.
I think it's on June 11th.
Yeah.
And so there are like certain minor questions I have, like, you know, the library equipment line item or something like that.
Yep.
So should I just like try and get on your schedule at some point before the next budget committee meeting so that I can like flag?
And I will also be at the
more?
next budget committee meeting too.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Just like trying to follow in Ken's footsteps, you know,
Yeah.
he would like anticipate, you know, questions based on, you know, my right-hand column here. And for certain things, like, I don't want you to like necessarily, I don't want to necessarily assume that you have all of this in your head, you know what I mean? So maybe I'll like try and get on your radar, you know, soon enough so that if we have a question that neither one of us can suss out the answer, that we have time to figure it out.
Yeah, the end of the week before would be
The end of the week before. Okay, sounds good.
later in the week. It would be good.
More data entry time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Next, we have town administrator updates.
So I did get through most of that list. I don't think I missed anything, but you guys had asked about the sewer rate increase. Christine will be including a notice in the bills that will be going out, I believe on Wednesday. And they will let everybody know what the increase is. and the increase will go into effect on the following bill. So this bill will not have the increase, but it will have a notice of it. The other thing you guys asked about was the police chief and the trip that he just had. He's going to be on the schedule for the next meeting. And then also, I think you guys asked about getting committees on Zoom and YouTube, and I just wanted to kind of circle back to that. I did kind of look around a little bit, but I'm kind of hoping to wait till Karen is on board to get that kind of up and going, just because of staffing at the moment. The contracts with the school, we did lock in our oil contract, and that's at $2.55 a gallon. So we're good there. Open enrollment for health insurance will be happening in the next couple of weeks. And as far as senior lunch, I did confirm the date that you guys chose for November 12th with Paula. I think that was it. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have public forum. Anyone would like to speak? Now's your chance.
Well, I just have one quick question.
We just can't pick you up.
So bad.
Okay, all right.
Are we gonna be discontinuing the camera for the people that are coming up to the desk to speak to the board?
Are we discontinuing the camera?
Do you
Yeah,
mean like
we used to
the
have
camera that
one.
used to look at the
Oh. Well, I guess that's something we can tackle with Karen when she.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, I don't
relatively
know.
sure it wasn't a select board choice in so much as Neil was simplifying the physical logistics with his transition. So I think it's something we can add back in when Karen's here.
Yeah.
It was an act of God that Kelly and I got the camera to work today. So we are very excited for Karen.
Ladder, back in. So we're hoping to keep it simple for the next couple of.
Thanks for your patience.
Yeah, well, I apologize for the interruption. I was trying to see if there was another view, but
Yeah.
instead I gave you an echo.
It was a delightful break.
Oh, yes, okay. You guys.
Just a quick thing, follow up on the thing from Beverly. It was actually referred to as a request for qualifications. And I just checked back in my email and I did receive it from Beverly back in July of 24. So if you wanted to get a copy of it, it's in the sheet.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you. Thank you.
Lauren.
Lauren Clement, 86 Maple Street. A couple comments. The first one going back to Ken Trom in that presentation. There was apparently six items, I think they said, that were qualifying for that discount. So no one asked whether over the course of time, whether more items could maybe be added on or if some would get subtracted. And I briefly asked Ken, I was a little confused because the gentleman said street lighting was one of the things. And I know our street lighting falls in Kentucky Village Precinct or the Hopkinton Village Precinct for billing, I believe. I don't know if there was town. And he said the gentleman misspoke and there was another item that should have been in that place. And so I would just maybe question a little bit more or ask what the terms are of, I mean, if there's another, I don't know if the Bates building somehow qualify, we still own it or some other future something. Could we take advantage of that discount or how do you get into it? Or if they boot us out, I was just curious about that. And then another thing based off of the sewer bill increases on pricing. I'm wondering, I know the pricing is going to increase or is doubling over the course of 3 years. If people have pools or do a lot of outside watering and stuff, it's based off your water meter. How does someone go about getting a secondary meter? I know a lot of towns give that option. You usually have to pay for it and you may have to have it checked out to make sure you're not tapping in, but if the cost of sewer is going to double, that may be a question that someone that uses a pool, hot tub, whatever, might want to know about. And then I know there was some that weren't even reading, so I don't know how that functions either. But anyhow, those were my two questions or comments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lauren.
I don't know how to go about looking into the secondary meter question. Does anyone know anything about that?
I'll ask the precinct.
Okay,
Oh, no, it's not the yeah, it is the precinct, sorry. I'll ask Mike Metcalf.
okay. All right. Well, that brings us to board committee updates. Does anyone have any?
Ben was already here for the Energy Committee.
Talk
So,
about housing. Open space hasn't met. EDC, any update?
I unfortunately missed the last EDC meeting, so I don't
Okay.
have anything to report.
Okay, no worries. Waste reduction? Okay,
This isn't like a committee update, but just a heads up that I did email Pat at the waste reduction. And I'm looking to organize a joint witching hour waste reduction trash cleanup day at the transfer station based off of our conversation on the walkthrough, starting with the flat area. And once I hear back from Pat, then I'll reach out to Jolene to like clear it with her and figure out logistics that were not in their way. But
That's great.
that came
Thank
out
you.
of our walkthrough when we did all that.
good, I love it.
I really do think we should use the green bags during the cleanup.
I think it's a great idea.
Bring up green tags.
We still have a pallet.
It's too soon.
Who's gonna buy them?
We should find a way to use them efficiently, though. So
Yeah.
perhaps for.
No, I
We
agree.
gave some to Neil when he retired.
We definitely have put the word out that we are not ordering any can liners, any
Oh,
phone
yeah.
buildings for a while. So we're gonna use those
That's
as we
good.
can.
Okay, it's helpful.
I have an EDC follow-up question that is not urgent, but it's more, you had mentioned a while ago about there being a subcommittee formed to help
yes.
interface with the state because Fountain Square was on the 10-year plan or 5-year plan or something. And I was just, as I watched the near misses while I was painting today, I thought to myself, I wonder how that's going. So I was just curious.
I can give you more info on that, but maybe we can do that as a sidebar.
100%. It's more, I think the fellow small businesses in the area are just intrigued and interested and have been chomping, and I want to give them something to like,
Yeah, no, I
to know what's
completely
happening.
understand. Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
That rolls us into, anyone have anything for other? Okay. We do have one non-public related to a legal issue tonight, so I'll move, we go into non-public, and assuming we do that, we will then come out of non-public, adjourn, and not conduct any other business. So thank you everyone for joining us.
Thanks for coming.
We appreciate it, and I will move that we go into non-public under RSA 91A3 2E, which is legal.
I'll second.
It's a roll call vote, so Vicky,
Aye.
Stephen?
Yes.
I mean, yes.
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 Okay, thank you.
So,
So wait, no one
Do
speak,
you mind if
we
we
still
go
don't
to
have
the
that.
restroom?
No, no.
Vicky, I literally left the meeting to go. You go, girl. You take care of yourself.
Just